Hello, my name is Jim Tompkins. I'm the CEO of Tompkins International. Thanks for joining me today. I really look forward to you having a better understanding of what's going on with Alibaba. It's really important to you and your company. In fact, I think some of what I say to you is going to be surprising, some of it even shocking. And so I really think it's important that you get into what Alibaba is doing and how it impacts your company. Let me begin with a disclaimer. All of the information in this presentation is the result of Tompkins International's research of public information. There is no information being presented today that comes from any proprietary source. Tompkins International does not discuss information about their clients unless that information has been published. The fact base for this presentation comes largely from China. And China is so big and so complex, it's very difficult to get exact numbers. And so some of the numbers that we have today may not be precise according to your sources. We've done the best we can to get the best numbers available. But today's discussion is not about the exactness of the numbers. Today's discussion is about the impact of Alibaba on the entire world and how it's going to impact your company. So today what I want to do is I want to address 5 key questions. The first question is Alibaba, what's the big deal? Second question, what does Alibaba do? Third, who is Jack Ma? How did he surprise the world and what surprised him? Number 4, where is Alibaba headed? And number 5, what actions should you take based upon this Alibaba information? The first question is Alibaba, what's the big deal? Well, I have a 6-part answer to this question. First, Alibaba has 80% of the online business in the largest e-commerce market in the world. In year 2014, I believe Alibaba will do $420 billion. This is out of a total of $520 billion in China. In the United States, we only do $475 billion. I believe in year 2020 that in China, they will do more e-commerce business than we will see in the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, France, and Germany combined. China e-commerce is huge. In fact, I believe not China, but Alibaba in year 2015 will be the largest retail platform in the world. Yes, larger than Walmart. Second, Alibaba is the fastest growing e-commerce company in the fastest growing market in the world. Last year on 11/11/2013, that's Singles Day in China, Alibaba handled $575 billion in a 24-hour period. That's 80% more than they handled on Singles Day in 2012. That number is 3 times larger than handled in all of the United States on Cyber Monday. Secondly, I see that Alibaba revenue has grown 70% a year from 2009 to 2013, and then China e-commerce since 2003 has grown 120% a year. The third point on the question, what's the big deal, is that Alibaba handled $248 billion in sales to more than 231 million customers in year 2013. If you look at China as a total in 2013, they had 302 million people shopping online, and of those 302 million, 231 shopped on Alibaba. Also, we need to reflect on what's going on in year 2020 in China. In year 2020 in China, there will be twice as many e-commerce customers as there are Americans. Fourth, Alibaba handled more than 70% of the packages that were delivered in year 2013. That's over 5 billion packages that Alibaba caused to have delivered. And if we look at where that's going, Alibaba sees we need to make an investment in China logistics. The first stage of that investment will be $16 billion, and the second stage will be $32 billion. I believe by year 2024, what we will see in China is we will be delivering 200 million e-commerce packages every single day. The fifth part of the answer to this question is that Alibaba's IPO in New York City is huge. The IPO is based upon the rise of the middle class in China. Today in China, only 1/3 of the gross domestic product comes from the consumers. In the United States, 2/3 of our gross domestic product comes from the consumers. And so the IPO is based on the rise of the consumers in China. This is a for sure thing. Equally, however, the Alibaba IPO filing could have been based on the disruptive force of the Alibaba globalization and their supply chain. But this would take your attention away from the real goal that Alibaba has with the IPO, and that is brand recognition. And lastly, and probably most important, the answer to this question, what's the big deal, is Alibaba makes money. Alibaba made 43 cents out of each dollar of revenue last year. In 2013, Alibaba had $7.95 billion in revenue, and they made $3.56 billion. That, in fact, is 44.8% margin. Most e-commerce companies in the world break even or make a little money, or maybe they don't make any at all. The leader in the United States is eBay, whose margin in 2013 was 17.8%. And so what we're going to see is the profitability of Alibaba, in addition to the tens of billions of dollars they're going to get from their IPO, is going to provide them with a fund which allows them to continue their aggressive M&A. Now, the thing that's interesting about their M&A is it's different in China than it is in the United States. In China, the goal of their M&A is profitable growth. But in the United States, the purpose of their M&A is innovation, technology, and most importantly, learning about the U.S. market. And so what they're trying to do is understand how U.S. business works and build alliances throughout the United States. The second question is, what does Alibaba do? First of all, it serves as a middleman. It's connecting buyers and sellers via a marketplace. The second thing it does is it facilitates the marketplace. It's the platform where people go to sell things and where people go to buy things. The third thing it does, it runs websites where millions of merchants sell to millions of people. Fourth, it facilitates the e-commerce sales of hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, the point that has to be made here is the sales are done through Alibaba, not by Alibaba. And it's important to get that distinction. Alibaba has no desire to sell to consumers or businesses. It sees that if it does sell to consumers or businesses, it's going to compete with its merchants. And Alibaba does not want to compete with its merchants. Alibaba makes money by advertising, selling advertising to the merchants who are selling on their marketplaces, by sales commissions and other e-commerce services like web services and so forth. Alibaba is B2B, B2C, C2C, and has a flash sales marketplace. Alibaba invests in Chinese and American technology, and Alibaba has a Chinese, an American, and cross-border marketplaces. Let's look at these three marketplaces separately. So first, what does Alibaba do in China? First, it does marketplaces. It does Taobao, which was created in 2003 and is C2C, has 8 million sellers and 900 million product listings. Secondly, they have Tmall, which was created in 2008, which is B2C, which includes folks like NFL, Adidas, Nike, Gap, Apple, Procter & Gamble, Godiva, Walt Disney, Casino, Samsung, and over 70,000 sellers that have more than 2,000 foreign brands. And the third marketplace is Zhuhasuan, which was created in 2011 and is a B2C flash sale site. The technologies that they deploy in China that they bought recently is Autonavi, which they bought in 2013, which is an online map company, and Weibo, which in 2013 they bought, which is a microblogging site. From a facilitation of the marketplace, the biggie is Alipay, which they created in 2014, which is an online payment escrow service. They handled $519 billion of payments in year 2013. You say, wait a minute, Jim, they only sold $420 billion. How did they handle $519? It's because they are the biggest escrow payment service in all of China, doing 420 of their own and then 99 billion of payments from others. They have China Smart Logistics Network, which in 2013 was created to deliver goods to customers. They have Herr Güdemart, which was created in 2013, which is a logistics business for delivering large products like appliances. They have the Rookie Network, which was created in 2013, which is really CSN Part 2. This is where they're investing the $16 billion in Stage 1 and the $32 billion in Stage 2. And then they have a relationship with InTime, which is the largest department store and mall business, which in 2014 they created a partnership to pursue click and collect and to allow them to become omni-channel. So second, what does Alibaba do in America? Or maybe I should say, in America, what does Alibaba invest in? From a marketplace point of view, they invested in 2013 in the B2C marketplace First Dibs, which is a marketplace for luxury goods. Also in 2013, they invested in Fanatics, which is a B2C site for officially licensed sports merchandising, and it's also the power behind the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, PGA, and other sports brands, as well as they're the power behind the sports media brands of NBC Sports, CBS Sports, Fox Sports, and so forth, and over 200 collegiate teams. So Fanatics is a huge sporting site. Also in 2014, we have the first new Alibaba U.S. marketplace for unique limited edition product, and this will be called 11 Main, and it'll come from the technologies that Alibaba invested in 2010, Vendio and Octavia, who are both eBay listing services. In 2012, Alibaba invested in Quixi, which is a search engine technology, and they recently invested in TangoMe, which is an instant messaging service. To facilitate the marketplace and to help with the logistics side of the business, they invested in ShopRunner in 2013, and they invested in Lyft, a ride-sharing and final delivery service, also in year 2013. And third, what does Alibaba do that's cross-border? Well, their first marketplace was Alibaba.com in 1999, and it's a B2B site where they're connecting China manufacturing to foreign buyers, primarily Americans, because it's the first English site that was ever created in China for a business. In 2010, they created AliExpress, which is a B2C site, which today is in over 220 countries. They created in 2013 Taobao Overseas, which is a focus on Southeast Asian market. They invested in 2014 the global version of Tmall, Tmall Global, which is B2C, where they're selling foreign brands to sell in China. And then just recently, in 2014, they got heavy investment in Singapore Post, which will allow them to deliver products throughout Southeast Asia. And then also in 2014, the Australian Post, which is used for B2B and for payment, which is where Australian customers shop on Tmall. Chinese customers shop on Tmall Auspost, which is an Australian marketplace, and also to allow Chinese tourists to shop in Australian stores using Alipay. So these results from Alibaba are just phenomenal. How did this come about? And so I guess we want to look at who created this. Who is the founder? And that's Jack Ma. So the third question is, who is Jack Ma, and how did he surprise the world, and what surprised him? I want to cover this in 6 sections as well, and so let me begin by talking about Jack's background. Jack was born near Shanghai. His parents performed in Chinese musical theater. He learned English as an unpaid tour guide to foreign visitors. He graduated from a local university, and he taught English for 5 years, being paid $15 a month. He's married, he has 1 son, he has 1 daughter. He made a trip to the United States in 1995, and that's where he first saw the internet. He started the Yellow Pages in China, which was an English version of Chinese companies that people could buy from. That didn't work, and so he closed that. In 1997, he went to work for the China Ministry of Foreign Trade and Economic Cooperation, and that's where he met Jerry Yang, the co-founder of Yahoo. That gave him the basis of understanding where he wanted to go with Alibaba, and he started that company in 1999. Secondly, Jack is a teacher. He applied at Harvard 10 times and was never accepted. He graduated from a local school in China. But more than his profession being a teacher, Jack is really a teacher. That's who he is. That's what he does. To understand this more, let's look at a few quotes from people who worked with Jack. First of all, I think a lot of Jack's success today and why people respect him a lot is because he is a teacher. I think there are 3 characteristics at a teacher that make you successful as a corporate leader. First, you have to communicate well. Second, teachers really care about developing other people. Lastly, teachers are willing to swallow their pride and hire people who are better than they are. Secondly, from someone who's worked with Jack for a long time, I'd describe Jack as an idealistic, optimistic, competitive, innovative, and being resilient. He's trained to be a teacher, and his first job was as a teacher, so I think he measures his success by how positive an effect he has on others around him. Lastly, a quote from Jack himself about being a teacher. The success of a CEO should be determined by the number of people he trained that can surpass him. If someone warns me about an employee who's trying to overstep me, I reply, I am a teacher, and that's the way it should be. Third, a few insights into Jack Ma, the leader. Jack is a visionary. He understood the impact back in 1999 that the internet was going to have on China. He got that, and he understood that back in 1999. Jack is a guy that loves to grow. He pursues lots of different subjects, and he has an appetite to learn about a lot of different things. Jack inspires and motivates people. In the 2009 Ali Fest, he came out with lipstick and a blonde wig and sunglasses, and he sang to 16,000 Alibaba people, "Can you feel my love tonight?" In 2013, he wore these big sunglasses and the silver coat, and he came out and he sang to 40,000 people at an Ali Fest. He sang Chinese pop songs. He sang Lion King. He shared the stage on Ali Fest with folks like Bill Clinton, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kobe Bryant. I mean, the guy, he really likes to get his people all revved up and inspired about what he's doing and the impact it's having on the world. He makes bold decisions. He's oftentimes been compared to Larry Ellison. He's been compared to Richard Branson. He's been compared to Ted Turner as someone who does bold things, and he makes bold decisions. And he's passionate. He's passionate about what he's doing. He's passionate about his company. He's passionate about his success. But as a teacher, he's even more passionate about the success of the people around him. Fourth, who is Jack Ma? Let's look at him as a man from China. First of all, his real brilliance is his ability to study what works in the West and then to Chinify it. For example, the Chinese people are very price sensitive, and so he made Alibaba free for the sellers and for the buyers. People of China have a difficult time sometimes with the issue of trusting strangers. And so that's why he created Alipay as an escrow type service. And so Chinification is what Jack has done. He's watched what works in America, and then he Chinifies it and applies it to his country. Jack is an expert as guanxi. Guanxi is about personal relationships, and it's much deeper than personal relationships. It's really creating a good friendship with others, and Jack has created this network of alliances. In fact, if you look at what he's done over the years, you can trace good friend, good friend, good friend, good, and you can see the network that he has created all through guanxi. Third, he really likes and practices martial arts. And he loves Kung Fu. All of the Ali people take a name named after some Kung Fu character. Jack took the name for himself that is translated as unpredictable and aggressive. He also likes the understanding of how you leverage a competitor's strength against them. And that comes from the Kung Fu thought process. And so Jack really is deep in being a strong Chinese and understanding that culture. Fifth, maybe something that's hard for people to believe because Jack is from China, is that he is an entrepreneur. In fact, Jack is often viewed as the godfather of entrepreneurs in China. There are millions of people that came from humble backgrounds that created a business and became entrepreneurs because Alibaba allowed them to come out of the dark and into the light. And they offered them the opportunity. So there's people that make things that they sell online that have become entrepreneurs. And there's people that support Alibaba. For example, there's a group called Four Tongs and One Da that is a delivery company that delivers products for Taobao throughout China. And so Jack has helped millions of entrepreneurs increase their standard of living. In fact, Jack has revolutionized how retailing is done in China, and he's revolutionized the economy in all of China. And so what we see now is these entrepreneurs who just a few years ago were waiting in line holding coupons to get rice and bicycle and clothing, today are successful entrepreneurs that own their own business. Jack has really done a great job of helping China understand entrepreneurism. Lastly, Jack Ma is probably the original global leader as opposed to an international leader. In 1995, Jack first used the internet. He was in Seattle, Washington, and he was 30 years old, and what he typed into the computer was Chinese beer. Nothing came up. He was shocked. He typed in German beer, and there was hundreds of thousands of hits. He said, why not China beer? Why doesn't something happen? So he and his friend created a little website that allowed that to be advertised for translation of Chinese. Within hours, he got 4 or 5 inquiries. He said, this is phenomenal. So he went home and he created the China pages. As we said, that didn't work so well. But he began thinking about what would work well and how can we create a global company. So in 1999, Jack said, okay, we have these millions of Chinese factories. How do I help to get the exposure to the Western world where foreign companies source from China, but they don't see the light of day? And so Jack saw that the internet was the great equalizer. And he saw a global business where they would export product from China into the United States. He began the company thinking it was global. Again, what we see in 1999, Jack said, our competitors are not in China, but they're in Silicon Valley. Now, interesting, as you turn the clock forward, what do we see? We see that Alibaba is the world's largest e-commerce company. It's buying companies in Silicon Valley, it's opening offices in Silicon Valley, and it's doing an IPO in New York City. Jack is a global leader. So Alibaba, at its core, is a global company. And so where should Alibaba expand? The logical places for it to expand is to go to other markets where it has similar characteristics to China. Markets where there's low trust, where they're underbanked, where the customers have a desire of a lack of trust, and so they have a desire to find a more trusting environment, and where we have a poorly developed infrastructure. So that would point to South America, that would point to the rest of Asia, that would point to Africa. But that's not what we see Jack doing. We do see Jack going for the rest of Asia, but he's not going at this point to South America or to Africa. Where he's going is the rest of Asia and the United States. That's what Jack's focus is. Why? Because that is his vision of how this business is going to grow. In fact, on May 12th in 2014, at a press release that Alibaba released, they said they're hiring a former U.S. Treasury official as a Alibaba communication executive. And what Jack said in this release is, as Alibaba extends our platform for entrepreneurs and small businesses around the world, it is important that we have the right people in place who have a track record of building bridges across geographical boundaries. Jack is a global leader. The world did not expect to be taught a lesson on e-commerce or, in fact, on commerce from China. The world did not expect that the world's largest retail platform would be a marketplace for others to sell. So when Jack Ma and Alibaba became the world's largest e-commerce company and is well on his way to becoming the world's largest retail platform, the world was surprised. So when Jack Ma and Alibaba showed the power of marketplaces when done in a very big way, it's more powerful than being a retailer. The world was surprised. So how did this happen? It's a combination of things having to do with the brilliance of Jack being able to Chinify Western success. It has to do with the undeveloped retail industry in China, and it has to do with the rapid expanding consumer markets of China. But more than these three, it's the power of big marketplaces. You see, big marketplaces have the ability to block other search engine spiders, because big marketplaces are their own search engine. And so what you find is, since they're blocking other spiders, if there's a lot of merchants there, sellers want to go there and they will use the Alibaba search engine. And so if you use the Alibaba search engine, then the customers are going directly there, and so the merchants want to be there because the customers are going there, and the more customers go, the more the merchants want to be there, and you get this cycle going of more customers, more merchants, more customers, more merchants, and you become a very big marketplace. What we find when you're in a very big marketplace, you want to be known, you want to be recognized, and so what you're willing to do is buy advertising. And that's where Alibaba makes their profit, is on the advertising. So in a very big marketplace, we find that you have more power than you do if you're actually the retailer. That surprised the world. Jack surprised the world by doing that. Also, what we see is the bigger the marketplace becomes, the cycle of more buyers and more sellers comes together, and this results in more buyers and more sellers, and you have the snowball effect that makes Alibaba really the place to be. So then what surprised Jack Ma? Jack Ma had no desire to be a bank, to be a retailer, but rather a platform for retail. Nor did he have the desire to touch any products, transport any products, warehouse any products, or deliver any products. And so how did it turn out? If we look today, Jack is a bank, Alipay. Jack has not been and will never be a retailer, but rather a retail platform. However, something Jack has just figured out in the last 2 years is that he cannot continue to be successful if he does not take responsibility for Alibaba logistics. Jack was surprised to learn that he had to be responsible for logistics, but in 2012, he said terrible logistics were slowing the growth of internet retailing in China. And so what Jack has done is he's created these investments in InTime, in ShopRunner, in Lyft, in Hire Good Market, in Rookie Network. And so he's really focusing in on how can I get the logistics done. He doesn't want to do this, but he has no choice. His volume is so huge, if he doesn't do it, it won't get done, and his marketplace will not be able to continue to grow. So Jack needed to do logistics, and so Jack is now doing the banking part and doing the logistics part, but he has maintained his view that he is not going to be a retailer. He will be a marketplace, and he won't compete with his merchants. So Jack, like the great retailers, Sam Walton and Jeff Bezos before him, is really a customer-centric person, and that he wants to really make sure that his supply chain works for the consumers and the businesses who buy things through his marketplace. Okay, so that gives us some understanding is why Alibaba is a big deal. It tells us something about what Alibaba does and who is Jack Ma. But now what we need to do is we need to put our feet up and ask the question, where are they headed? What is this going to do, and what's the impact it's going to have on us? And so I think there's three ways to look at this. We can look at it from a big picture point of view, we can look at it from a China point of view, and we can look at it from a U.S. point of view. And when we look at those three views, big picture, China and U.S., there's two ways to view it. One is the execution. What are they going to do from this point forward? And then secondly, what's the strategy? What's the strategic view of what they're going to build on after they execute what they're doing today? What must Alibaba do to execute from a big picture point of view? First, they need to build on the IPO brand recognition. The brand recognition they're going to get from the IPO is huge, and the number of merchants, both domestically and internationally, that want to sell on Tmall and Taobao is going to grow. The number of customers is going to grow. And so this brand recognition is going to give them a great opportunity to move to the next level. They want to leverage and grow the China domination. They've only been profitable in China for 4 years. Yes, they have 80% of the market, but they have competition. So they need to execute on continuing to do the things they've done to be successful in China. They need to build out Asia and follow on the China success. And so they need to move to Southeast Asia. They need to see the deals like the Singapore Post and the Australian Post are really awesome to allow them to execute in a bigger geographical footprint. They need to push on the U.S. foundation and Americanize the Chinese success. And so this has to say with 11 Main, with First Dibs, with what they're doing with the Fanatics, with what they're doing with Tmall Global. This is a great opportunity to continue to grow that. They need to leverage the guanxi. The guanxi is great with folks like Jerry Yang, folks like Michael Rubin, Scott Thompson, SoftBank, Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. And so they need to grow that guanxi and allow that to go friend to friend to friend to continue to expand the success that they've had in China. From a big picture strategic point of view, where we're going to see Alibaba going is that they're going to be focusing on Europe by holiday 2016. They're going to go back and pick up Africa and South America by holiday 2017, and then they're going to pursue the rest of the world by holiday 2018. And so they're going to open these marketplaces. We need to have Alibaba understand the difference between local success and global success. And no one has really done this well yet. So what we see is that Rakuten is doing really well in Japan, Amazon in the US, Flipkart in India, Gmart in Korea. And what we're finding is that, and of course Alibaba is doing great in China, but now what Alibaba is doing is they're moving from a great China company to a great global company. And so they got to really understand what's the difference between local success and global success. And then the last thing they must do from a strategic point of view is really figure out this final delivery process. There's final delivery for people who live in rural areas. There's final delivery for people that live in urban areas but smaller cities. And then there's final delivery for the large cities. And how do they do that well? And that's a strategic thing they need to do not only in China but also in the United States. And so it's a big picture thing that Alibaba needs to figure out. Next, from a China perspective, where is Alibaba headed? First, from an execute point of view, they need to really figure out omni-channel. And they need to figure out, how am I going to work with in-time? What am I going to do with click and collect? How's that going to work? From an execution point of view from China, they need to get these logistics things figured out. Where are we going to have the inventory? How are we going to do the final delivery? And then they need to grow the existing marketplaces. And so they got to put the pedal to the metal on Tmall and Taobao. From a strategic point of view, they need to stay totally focused on the marketplaces and the supply chain. They need to not get too hung up on, televisions and cell phones and so on. Let's really dominate what we're doing in marketplaces and supply chain. From a strategic point of view, they need to continue to grow with the consumer's desires. The growth of the consumer in China is great, and so their needs and desires are going to grow. And Alibaba needs to really stay up with that and make sure they stay in front of the customer. They need to stay in front of the competition as well, and they need to continue to invest to maintain their technological edge. And so from an execution and strategic point of view, much of what they need to do in China is grow the foundation that they've already created. Next, from a U.S. perspective, but before I get into the execute and the strategic, let me address a very important comment and a very important question that I hear all the time from U.S. executives. First, the comment. Okay, but China is different from the United States. China doesn't have beautiful malls and stores. Traffic is so bad in China, no one wants to go to the stores. And the Chinese culture is more consistent with e-commerce. Well, okay, I'm not sure I agree with that, but it doesn't matter. Let's assume this statement is correct. If this statement is correct, which company best understands how to translate this? I believe Alibaba doesn't think that what they do in China will translate to the United States, and so they get the need to Americanify, if that's a word, what they've done in China. They get the need to do the translation. Jack Ma himself is brilliant at doing this translation, and so he gets it. He understands it, and he will make this transition. And so then let's look at the question that I get all the time. The question is, okay, I get it. Alibaba is doing great in China, but why does this present a threat to American business? Well, I get the skepticism. I understand that because China is a different place. But let me present to you my top 10 reasons why U.S. business needs to really study Alibaba and really understand how to respond to Alibaba. So, my top 10 reasons. Number 1, Jack Ma has been fascinated by the U.S. for over 30 years. Number 2, Jack Ma was an English teacher in China. Number 3, Jack Ma first learned about the internet in the United States. Number 4, Jack Ma began Alibaba by connecting Chinese manufacturers to the U.S. businesses. Number 5, Jack Ma has said since 1999 that Alibaba is a global company and he wants to do business in the United States. Number 6, in 2010, Alibaba bought 2 U.S. technology firms as a foundation for Alibaba to enter the U.S. Number 7, since January 2013, Alibaba has invested over $500 million in the U.S., making their total investment in the U.S. firms over $1 billion. Number 8, the 2014 Alibaba IPO location, New York City. Number 9, Alibaba is opening its first U.S. marketplace, 11 Main, in 2014. And number 10, for Jack Ma to achieve his global dreams, he must build a major U.S. e-commerce business. So where is Alibaba headed in the United States? I think from an execute point of view, one of the things they're going to do is they've really understood the value of intellectual property in the United States. They have today over 100 patents in the United States. They have over 300 patents which are pending. And so they're going to continue to control the intellectual property with respect to how marketplaces are going to evolve. They need to execute on that. They also need to execute on the logistics piece. And this is taking ShopRunner and taking Lyft and turning them into logistics vehicles for marketplace. I believe these are the 2 important things they need to do from an execute point of view. So where is Alibaba going from a strategic point of view in the United States? First of all, they're going to do more M&A. They've done a great job with the M&A so far. They bought marketplaces or invested in marketplaces. They've bought or invested in technology, and they bought and invested in things that facilitate the marketplace. They're going to continue to do this so that they have more intellectual property to control where the marketplaces are heading in the United States. Secondly, from a strategic point of view, is this topic of grocery. This one has been a little bit strange to me because when you just look at Alibaba in China, there's something that's confusing. Since Jack gets the Chinese people, he knows that the Chinese homemaker shops daily for food. And the reason for that is because the cold chain in China is very weak. And so this is what they do. But when the homemaker shops for food and prepares meals, it's more about health care than it is eating. And so this is a very personal thing, the grocery thing in China. And so Jack knows that. I don't think online grocery is going to be big in China. Walmart with Yihaodian has done a good job there, and they're the leaders, but you don't see Alibaba trying to challenge them. And so what are they doing in grocery in China? They have over 20,000 products, and they're doing about 10,000 orders a day, but I don't think Alibaba is trying to do grocery in China. I think they're trying to understand grocery so that the biggest market for online grocery going forward is the United States. And so what they're going to do from a strategic point of view, I believe they're going to get very engaged in the United States on online grocery. And I believe this is a strategic move that Alibaba is going to be making. The third topic under where Alibaba is going to be going from a strategic point of view in the United States has to do with they're going to play offense. They understand better than anyone in the world that big marketplaces work. And so they're going to be very aggressive in getting more customers. They're going to be very aggressive in getting more merchants. They're going to have very low advertising rates. They're going to make the sites as convenient to the Americans as the American wants them. And so they're going to make the sites really zing, and they're going to offer things that the Americans are going to love. And so they're going to grow customers. They're going to grow merchants. I believe we can look at what Jack Ma has done historically, and we can understand something about his martial arts background of leveraging the other people's strengths to your advantage. We can see what he did when Alibaba followed and chased and finally destroyed the eBay of China. And so they're really clear that they're going to play very strong offense. And I believe they're going to be very successful in the United States. And I believe this is going to give them China and the United States with the rest of Asia, which is going to allow them to really be successful moving forward. So the big question is, what action should you take to respond to the Alibaba offensive? Well, a logical answer is you can play defense. Unfortunately, that's wrong. If you play defense, you will lose. What you need to do is you need to mount a counteroffensive. And this counteroffensive needs to have 4 parts: price, selection, convenience, and experience. First, on price, you need to reduce operating costs. Second, you need to reduce inventory costs, and this allows you then to have free delivery and free returns. That's a counteroffensive you need to have from a price point of view. From a selection point of view, you need to increase your non-stock items that you sell, and you need to increase your stock items that you sell. You need to have a broad selection, and you need to own a category. Third, from a convenience point of view, you need to provide the speed of delivery that your customers desire. And we need to crank it up to get there to make sure that we have that convenience. And then we need to have an experience where we have a personalized and engaging experience so that the customers feel like they really are related to individually. And this personalization of an omni-channel experience is really key for us to win on the experience counteroffensive. Your supply chain is the fuel for your counteroffensive. So for you to win in price, selection, convenience, and experience, you need to address 2 primary supply chain topics. The first supply chain topic is omni-channel. In omni-channel, there's 3 things we need to look at. First of all, you need to have a channel strategy. How are you going to go to market in your different channels? Should you have an Alibaba channel? What should you do with the Alibaba channel? We need to answer that question. Secondly, we need to have an omni-channel transparency. We need to understand customers don't think channel. That's our problem, to think about channels. Customers want the channels to be transparent. They don't want to see channels. And so how do you trade between your channels in a way that to the customer, it feels like they don't exist, they're invisible? And then lastly, we need to personalize. You need a omni-channel that's personalized, not the way you want it, but the way the customer wants it. And if we can do these three things, we can use our omni-channel supply chain to drive a counteroffensive against Alibaba. The second initiative for your supply chain counteroffensives is get local. And so when we think about that, the first thing we got to really focus in on, what's the distribution fulfillment network look like? What does the customer request for delivery? Is it same day? Is it next day? Is it 2 days? How does that vary by different products, by different locations, by different price points? What do we need to deliver? And then how do we create a network of distribution centers and fulfillment centers, or maybe distribution centers, fulfillment centers combined, or maybe 3PLs? How do we create this network, and where do we place the inventory for the different products to provide the level of delivery that's needed? And so we need to look at this and say, is it hub and spoke? How do they work together? How do we coordinate it? What does our order management system look like? And so developing this distribution fulfillment network is critical to get local. The reason it's critical is because we need to think about lean logistics. And when we think about lean logistics, I'm thinking about lean transportation. I'm talking about lean distribution centers and fulfillment centers. I'm talking about lean material handling systems where we have more thought and less steel. I'm talking about lean technology. And how do we put in the technology that's needed to support the requirements of that location? Maybe we're going to have store fulfillment, and store fulfillment has a different level of technology than we need in a distribution center or fulfillment center. So we need to understand what this network looks like. We need to understand what lean logistics looks like. And then we got to talk about how do we get the product delivered. And so are we going to get the product delivered using a nationwide carrier, or are we going to use a local carrier, or are we going to use a combination? Like we said for Alibaba, maybe it's different in the rural areas than it is in the small cities versus the big cities. And how are we going to do that? And so it's really important when we talk about get local to do a great job of our supply chain, of designing the network, of having the right logistics, and doing the right final delivery. Really, really important that we do that well. The counteroffensive of the personalized omni-channel and the right mix of regional and local carriers with the right network, with the right lean logistics is going to lead us to profitable growth. And so what's the path forward to accomplishing this? I believe the path forward is strategy, structure, and implementation. It's 3 phases. The strategy, what we need to do is we need to determine what are the operational capabilities of process, people, and technology that's going to allow us to design the supply chain that's going to make omni-channel and get local a tremendous strength. And so we develop the strategy first. From that strategy, we get a roadmap of what we need to do now, what we need to do next, and then what we're going to do later. We then develop the structure of the omni-channel and the get local that will allow us to be successful moving forward as Alibaba continues to increase its presence in the United States. And then what we need to do is we need to implement quickly so that we can develop the benefits to our consumers quickly and the benefits to our company's competitive position quickly. If we follow strategy, structure, and implementation with the counter-offensives of personalized omni-channel and get local, we can be very successful against the Alibaba offensive they're placing on us. So there you go. 5 answers to the 5 big Alibaba questions. You know, I have to tell you, I had a real battle with my marketing team about this presentation. They said it was too long. Well, I get it, but I left out 90% of my material. I mean, Alibaba, there's so much going on, and I'm passionate about you really getting this. And so I wanted to include what I had to include. I don't know if you've been watching, but back in March of 2012, I said that for holiday 2013, we were going to have a tremendous problem with delivery. And we did. And I said that beginning in 2014, in the first quarter, we're going to have a record number of store closures. And we did. And I'm saying that what we're going to find is by the first quarter of 2015, a record number of bankruptcies are going to take place in retail. And now I'm adding a new thing. I believe by holiday 2015, you're going to be talking about Alibaba. And so it's really important that you make something happen with this information. I am really passionate about retailers, consumer products companies, 3PLs, wholesalers, and distributors making something happen because Alibaba is on the offensive and you need to respond. On the screen now is our contact information. Go to our website and get more information, or write me, or email me, or call me, or whatever. The game is changing. This is a huge opportunity for you and your company. You need to act. You need to pursue your counteroffensive. You need to upgrade your supply chain, to pursue omnichannel and get local. I look forward to you leveraging your knowledge of the Alibaba effect and you're pursuing your counteroffensives to achieve huge success.